So as Rich said, I'm Sherif Mansour, and funny picture of me, and I'm a product manager for Confluence. I've been so for the last couple of years. And also I helped found Team Calendars at Atlassian, so it's been going for just over a year now as well, a new add-on for Confluence. And most recently I worked on the project of Workbox. You heard about it in John Michel's talk yesterday, and Shihab's talking about it today. This is the notifications and tasks feature inside Confluence 4.3, the release that just shipped. And through each of these experiences, I've learned a lot about feedback. Confluence 4, you can thank me for getting rid of wiki markup. Huge change. We learned a lot, some the easy way and some the hard way, about getting feedback from our customers. With Team Calendars, it was a brand new commercial add-on, something we hadn't done for a while. And so getting feedback there was quite different to the other feedback techniques we'd deployed in other projects. And this Workbox feature, we had a big blurry vision of what we wanted to do. But to be quite honest with you, we weren't quite sure of who exactly we were building this for and what features they would want out of it. And so we learned a lot about feedback techniques throughout that process as well. So throughout this talk, I'll actually be going through 5 feedback tips for building effective feedback loops through each of the projects that I guess I've experienced over the last couple of years and lessons learned. But before that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this build, measure, learn lifecycle and how that's important to consider when you're doing your software projects or your add-ons or whatever and getting feedback. So who here has read the Lean Startup book? Well, okay, a few, 3, 4, 5, 10 maybe. It's a good book, highly recommend it. If you want to save yourself $25 or something, I'll give you the quick summary in one slide. So Eric Ries writes this Lean Startup book, and he talks about this principle of learning early and learning often. And he's all about the faster your team can learn about the product or the code you just shipped, the better you'll be at the end of the day. You'll make sure you're building the right thing. And so the faster you can learn, the better it is for you. And the cycle is pretty simple. You know, you start off building something, your add-on, whether it's internal for some internal customers or externally, you put it on the marketplace. And some of you here I've spoken to measure some basic usages of that add-on or the plugin. You know, is it being used? How is it, kind of metrics kind of stuff about how it's being used. And then from that, you learn, what's working, what's not working, what can we do to make the experience a bit better? And you iterate that over and over again. And so a large part of measuring these days, we do typically number crunching, number of downloads, number of evaluators, are people using this feature internally, usage hits, or hits to the website or the web page. But an important part of learning that we miss often is this unsolicited feedback we hear from customers. And so my talk's really going to be focused on that kind of feedback. And I'm going to dive into 5 different tips to help you improve your feedback loops in your project teams. So let's get straight into it. My first tip is all about reducing friction. Friction, friction, friction. You need to get rid of it, and you need to be really obsessive about getting rid of it. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Confluence 4, we changed the way people primarily edit content in Confluence. A fairly significant release, wasn't easy at all, but we wanted to make sure people gave us feedback in our early milestone releases of what they were doing, issues they may have hit, questions, concerns, feature requests, and so we wanted to look at how we could reduce friction and get feedback that way. So we put a little feedback button up the top of the editor, and we shipped that in all our milestone releases, our beta, throughout our whole early access program. And when you clicked on that, we had a dialogue, and this may sound really stupid, but we actually spent a lot of time debating every field that went in that dialogue. Do we really need that field? Is it required? Can we get around it somehow? Can we capture that through JavaScript? Is there things we can do to make it much frictionless for the end user? Before we used to send you to jira.atlassian.com to give us feedback, and you had to log in again, and if you didn't have an account, you had to sign up. So a lot of friction to go through that process. And so this is what we ended up with. We only had one required field, and that was it. The result, we had over 900 feedback submissions. So to date at Atlassian, this is still the only release we've had the most amount of feedback for. and it's kind of set a precedent with all the other releases that we do. We think about this feedback button and where we can place it and how we can capture feedback effectively. So it worked really well for us there. So 3 tips when getting feedback and thinking about reducing friction. Really think about reducing the barrier to entry. Try to remove context switching. You don't want them to jump to another application to give you feedback. Try and keep them inside your plugin or the screen that you're currently working on as much as possible. Second one is literally reduce the fields. Debate every field that is in that form that you want to capture. Do you really need it, and what are you going to do with that data? And lastly, I see the Jira team doing this a lot, is you want to make it really easy for your customers or your internal users to express themselves. Sometimes all you're after is really a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Is this working for you, is it not? And so I've seen this technique used, just a little smiley face thing. And if that's all you need, that's all you should put in there as well. So I've talked a little about reducing friction and how to make that easier. And so there's several tools available to help you do that. The one I'm going to focus a little bit on now is the Jira Issue Collector. Who here knows about the Jira Issue Collector? Oh, cool, some of you. If you don't know about it, the author of the Jira Issue Collector is actually in the room. Andreas? Right. He's not. I knew he wouldn't turn up. So Andreas is actually around here. Here at the Jira Issue Collector. But basically, it's a really easy way to capture data from end users. It gives you a few lines of JavaScript from Jira. You paste it into your web application or your plugin or your add-on, and it puts a feedback button wherever you want it, and it raises issues straight into Jira so you can triage them and do whatever you want with them. So Jira Issue Collector, check it out. There's plenty of other free tools available for you out there as well, for those of you who don't have Jira, but I think every second person I've spoken to has Jira, or at least 2 copies of it. So, talked about reducing friction. My second tip is all about making the experience more fun. So there's one thing about making it easier for people to get feedback, but you can do a lot to incentivize people to give you feedback. So I got home from work one day throughout the Confluence 4.0 release cycle, and was having dinner, watching TV, and The Biggest Loser came on. And in Australia, we have this terrible habit of copying every single TV show that you guys do, and we keep replaying them over and over again. I was kind of amazed at how many editions of The Biggest Loser exist today. It's like The Biggest Loser couples, Biggest Loser singles, Biggest Loser celebrities, and then someone told me last night there's a Biggest Loser for your pets. But it's just amazing to see how turning a game into something that's quite hard, weight loss, really engages people and makes it a whole lot more fun. I was kind of getting into it myself as well. So the idea came up of this game called The Biggest Whinger. Now, whinger, I'm told, is an Australian slang term, so let me explain that. It's someone who complains a lot. And so we created The Biggest Whinger, a Confluence 4.0 edition prize. We made it a competition. The idea was really simple. Whoever gave us the most amount of feedback throughout the Confluence 4.0 release cycle, we gave them a prize. And because we were capturing this data straight into Jira, we used the Jira issues filter, and we graphed it really easily on a gadget on a dashboard, and we could quickly see how much feedback was received. And we gave away a prize, movie tickets. It worked really well. People would actually ping us and say, hey, how am I going on the leaderboard? What other bugs can I find? It was kind of quite amusing, actually. Our QA team loved it. It was great for them. But some other techniques you might want to employ. Team calendars, brand new commercial add-on. We wanted to incentivize people to install a beta in production. Something pretty hard to do, but we really needed that real feedback. So we said to people, hey, we'll give you a free license if you try it out for us. And so some of you here build add-ons in the marketplace or things like that. So you may want to think about different techniques you can do like that. Give away a free license to 1 or 2 customers who you know will take time out to give you feedback. Another thing you might want to do is Kyle here from the Balsamic team? Balsamic, yes? Right, yeah. So we got this tip from the Balsamic guys. You guys do this really well. Check out the Balsamic release notes. They take a lot of time out to thank people for the issues that they raise in their issue tracker. And they go, hey, thanks a lot for your help. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your feedback. This goes a long way towards engaging people. And if someone's reported an issue to you and you thank them for it, they know they're being heard, and they'll be even more encouraged to raise another request or give you some feedback for your add-on or your plugin. So we do this in our release notes. We use Confluence, and so we mention people. We use the mentions feature, and they get an email notification letting them know that, hey, you've been mentioned on the release notes, and like, hey, I contributed to this release, and it goes a long way. So some quick summary. Think about how you can incentivize people to get feedback on your plugin or your add-on. Saying thank you goes a really long way towards doing this. And think about game mechanics. You know, the leaderboard that we did for Confluence 4.0 actually worked quite well. And so you might want to think about that especially if you're a commercial plugin vendor as well. So if we talk about reducing friction, making the experience more fun, and now I just want to get a little bit more personal. And so my tip here is about getting personal with your customers. And I'm not talking about finding your hottest customer and asking them out on a date. What I am talking about is really getting to know who they are and who you're building your add-on or your plugin for, your customizations. We talked about this workbox feature. We had a vision for what we wanted to implement, but to be honest with you, we weren't quite sure which persona, what kind of user would find this the most helpful. So this was a huge learning exercise for us. So Shihab, one of our engineers, who you'll hear from later today, came up with this brilliant idea, and he created a wallboard right behind where our team sits. And on the wallboard, he put everyone's Gravatar photo that used the feature yesterday. A huge personal connection you make with the end users. And so we had the username there, and I'll dive into a bit of detail here. So this is John Cottermall. John's around as well. We had their avatar, so you can connect with the user, the name, so we knew who it was, so we could reach out to them for questions. And we had some numbers at the bottom there. So this is not John's hot or not rating. This is John's key feature usage from yesterday. So I know yesterday John received 2 notifications and created 4 tasks yesterday. And so we would stand around this board every morning in our stand-up and would be like, oh, well, John used it a lot yesterday. I wonder why he created 4 tasks. Let's reach out to him. Because the average tasks, average number of people that created tasks were 2.5 or something like that. And so this ended up becoming something we would check regularly and see, and we saw a trend in the types of users that used certain types of features. And then we would reach out to them to understand a bit more as to what they're trying to do and how we can make the features better for them. So the tip here is put a face to the stat. Many of you who are writing internal customizations and plugins, you're in a great opportunity because you can reach out to your customers much easier than those writing commercial plugins. Make use of it. Reach out to those people and try and connect with who exactly you're building the customizations or the plugin for. This goes, for those of you running larger teams, this goes a long way towards engaging your engineering team. In fact, it really ended up becoming part of our vocabulary in our planning meetings. We would be talking and someone would say, oh, this is the feature, oh, such and such would like that. They indicated that, when we spoke to them or when they used it. So it really just becomes part of your everyday language, and it's extremely powerful to really understand who you're building features for. And the end result, you really get to know the customer, and we use that data to drive customer interviews, quick phone call, quick Skype. I recall having a Skype session with John actually to understand how he's using the feature, and we got some feedback from him, and we're trying to incorporate that in the next release. So, next tip is running a feedback strategy, and this seems really boring, the word strategy at Atlas Camp, you're like, it kind of seems a bit lame. But it really is simple, and for those of you running commercial plugins, I really do encourage you to take time to think about a feedback strategy. And how do you do this? I wrote down 4 criteria points or 4 considerations to think about with your add-on or your plugin, your macro, whatever it is. I guess first of all, have a think about, are you trying to target, is it completely new? Are you trying to launch something completely new? Or do you already have something existing? Because how you get feedback for those 2 varying techniques is quite different. If it's new, you're going to have to do a whole lot more work to reach out to people that you already don't have contact with to get feedback. Is what you're building internal or external? So I gave you an example of the wallboard that one of our engineers created. That was internal, so we could capture a lot more private data, so privacy wasn't really a concern as much. If it's external, you're going to have to consider what else you can capture and what you can't capture. Are you after feedback for a specific feature in your add-on, or you have to feedback generically? Because this really affects how you place your feedback button on whatever screen that you're working on. For example, the workbox feature that we built, we wanted feedback on that little area on the top right, so we put another feedback link there, and it seems a bit weird, but we saw much more increased amount of feedback because it was right in where the feature that we wanted feedback for. And the last consideration here is, are you driven by a deadline? Because if you are, you may need to think about how you can incentivize people or encourage people or do a lot more follow-up to get that feedback. So I'll run through this 4 criteria points with a product that I worked on. So team calendars. This was our feedback strategy. We have a page on our extranet somewhere with a few paragraphs that kind of talk something similar about this. So team calendars, brand new. So we had to think about techniques for engaging customers that we hadn't had made in contact with yet. And so we had to find beta customers, and we wanted people to go through the effort of installing an add-on in production and giving us feedback. So it required a lot more communication overhead on our side. With this, we actually got feedback both internally and externally, which is kind of great. What I noticed with the external feedback is, obviously we couldn't capture usernames and whatnot, so we didn't capture that kind of stuff. But things you need to consider as well. Team calendars were after general feedback. We delivered an alpha of the plugin and a beta of the plugin. We just wanted, how's it generally going for you? We didn't really want any specific feedback. So when we talked to customers, we weren't diving too deep on anything. We were just trying to get a general feel of how this was working for them. And lastly, we had a deadline. And I mentioned earlier, we gave away a free license to try and encourage people to give us feedback. And I had a few customers email me going, oh, how am I going with feedback? Is someone else beating me? And it makes a huge difference in terms of how much data you get from your customers. So that's a really quick tip about writing a strategy. It doesn't seem too hard. It's not hard at all. Just do it. Sit down and write it. For those of you that already have some numerical data you may have from a previous project, for example, talk to you about Confluence 4.0. We had 900 feedback submissions from the 4.0 release. So when we do another release, we have a baseline stat that we can work off. So we can KPI ourselves and measure ourselves and go, how do we go this release? Oh, we only had 300 feedback submissions. Okay, could we have done anything to improve that? So once you start doing this, and you do a few of these, you can actually start to measure yourself and see how you go compared to previous projects. My last tip is my favorite tip, and the one I'm most excited about, is the concept of you guys being able to get feedback before you start. I spoke to a couple of you yesterday that are building internal customizations, administrators from internal customers, and it's sometimes really hard to communicate to your internal stakeholders, and they tell you we want this, and you start building something and they're like, oh, that's not quite what we were after. And for those of you writing external plugins, it costs you a lot of money. You're trying to build a business on top of Atlassian's platform, and you may start to build something, release it on Marketplace, and you find out it's not quite what people are after. And so my tip here is you can really get a lot of feedback well before you write a single line of code. And I'll go through a few examples where you can do it with a little bit of code, and then how you could do it without receiving any code at all. But before I do, anyone here been to Bali in Indonesia? A few of you. They have these shops. There's a photo I had when you walk down the streets, just these shacks on the side. And they got lots of T-shirts and stuff there. And I got 3 teenage boy nephews. And if anyone has teenage nephews or teenage kids, anything with they won't wear any piece of clothing without a surf brand on it. And they're totally obsessed with surf brands. And, is that a Billabong shirt or is that a Quicksilver shirt? And so I was walking down the streets of Bali and I noticed they had a whole heap of shirts. Billabong and Quicksilver and all these surf brands that were, $5. I was like, this is great. This is so cheap. I'm just going to load up on these, and I got Christmas and birthdays covered for the next couple of years. So I bought a whole heap of shirts, came back to the hotel room showing my wife, and she was like, oh, this is great. I can't believe it was that cheap. And then she looked at the shirt, one of the shirts. She's like, Sherif, that doesn't say Billabong. It says Billabang. I was like, oh. It's fake shirts. It totally fooled me. And so we were umming and ahhing whether or not we should still give this to the nephews. Were they going to pick this up or not? We gave it to them. They had no clue. Or they were being really polite, but they're not polite kids, so I'm pretty sure they had no clue. But you can go a long way faking it. And those T-shirts absolutely fooled me. And so I want to give you a few tips on different tools we have to help you fake it. And so let's get started on that immediately. Jean-Michel and Sam talked about this yesterday. We have this Atlassian user interface, and we have this Flatpak, and Rich explained what a Flatpak was yesterday. A one-pager, all the Atlassian HTML and CSS for our user interface stuff, all available in a single HTML file. You can grab it at those links. It's great if you want to copy and paste and create some dialogues, create some screens. If you know a bit of HTML, a little bit of JavaScript, you can go a little bit of a way to communicating a prototype and getting feedback for an idea that you might have. Now combine this idea with Speakeasy. Who here has heard of or used Speakeasy? Okay, a good half amount. Really, quite simply, Speakeasy is the ability to run any arbitrary piece of CSS and JavaScript for a particular user without having to install a plugin. So it's kind of like user-specific extensions to their Confluence or their Jira instance. So Don actually built this framework, and Don Brown, he's speaking next, so you can ask him a whole bunch of questions about it if you have any. But they're really quick and easy hack up. So when you combine the power of the AOE Flatpak with Speakeasy and Jira, Confluence, whatever tool you want, even Stash, Jens, even Stash, plug Stash for you, you have a prototype that you can communicate really quickly to your customers. Now you need to know how to be a bit of a HTML foo, and the better you are at JavaScript, I think the faster you'll be able to crank these out. But the PM in me kind of has to put this in a graph, or in a chart. So if we put this on an axis, and at the bottom we have speed, and at the top we have kind of like fidelity. Is this high fidelity or a low fidelity kind of prototype? I'd put the Speakeasy and AOE part maybe in the middle. Probably totally depends on your skill set. If you're really good at JavaScript, you probably move it towards the faster side of the speed. But maybe that's where it would probably sit for me. Those of you who may use Balsamiq, really fast to mock something up really quickly, but extremely low fidelity, so quite helpful if you want to get feedback on a concept and not really the visual styling. Some of you may use Photoshop, and that kind of, I think, sits in between. You kind of lose the interaction part if you just visualize a few mock-ups, but you can't really click through them or whatever, but probably sits about in the middle for me. And so something I've been really obsessed about and passionate about lately is something that I would put about there for me. And so I want to give you an example of how we faked a concept to communicate it to customers and you guys and plugin developers to get feedback. Actually, I think I even showed this to Roberto from Kamala Tech, and he was giving me feedback. And he said, can I play with this? And I said, actually, that was all fake. So let me show you what this is. I talked about Workbox. It was a project that we had. We weren't quite sure. So before we wrote any code, we actually faked the whole thing out. This is the video I showed people. So over here, you've got your Workbox notifications, and we've got all your Atlassian notifications in one place. And you can click on your notifications and get them all in-app, visualize them, you can flag them. You can even interact with your team all from this little Workbox. So I'm going to reply to people. So you'll even notice some of you have used Workbox today. It's changed significantly since then, because we use this to get feedback and we modified it a lot. You can reorder your tasks and drag and drop them up and down. In fact, you can even add some personal notes, some quick to-dos to your list. So I'll just type one up over here and hit enter, and it goes into my list of things that I need to get back to. What about extending Workbox? Yeah, we have an API available for you guys as well, and you can extend it. For example, we could use it to communicate to admins that your license is about to expire. Or Bonfire could use it, or Bitbucket could use it, or Tempo could use it to let you know that your timesheet is due. See, this is all fake. Not a single line of code. Took me a couple of hours before a company all-hands meeting, because we had to present to the company, and we reused that same presentation to customers and showed it to people. Not a single line of code at all. Really easy to fake. Got lots of feedback. We found lots of things wrong with our concept, or things we needed to tweak, things that didn't make sense to people before spending any effort of engineering time. That tool is Keynote. You're looking at that tool right now. Anyone here use Keynote for prototyping? Okay, a couple of you. Awesome. If you haven't tried it, try it. It'll change your world. It's really good. So how do you do this? So I wrote a recipe on how to fake it. This is the Keynote edition of how to fake it. So 3 steps, like every recipe. This is really simple. I can't do it with a Jamie Oliver English accent, so you'll just have to bear with me. So step 1, make your base. Like you would make a cake or anything, you need to make a base of some sort. And you really just need to capture a screenshot of the screen that you want to work with your add-on. Are you trying to add something to the view issue screen in Jira, or something to the view page screen in Confluence? So take your base screenshot, put that into Keynote. Step 2, mix and match the ingredients you want on top of it. So what I've done is that prototype I showed you earlier of Workbox, the thing that took me the longest in that prototype was drawing all the Atlassian user interface dialogues, the buttons, the links, all that stuff. So I've created a generic Keynote file and put all those things into a Keynote file. So you have all those Atlassian user interface elements in a Keynote file, all vectorized, and you can click and you can drag them. And this is what it looks like. I'll point out the link to it later. But we got the toolbar of all the Atlassian user interface, form elements, buttons, dialogues, modal dialogues, different preset sizes ready for you to go, inline dialogues, tables, the color schemes, and even the AOE messages and lozenges. And these are all in Keynote, so you can literally double click in them, rename them, copy, paste them, move them around, resize them, quickly communicate your concept for your Atlassian plugin, or you're building a customization for an internal customer before you write any code. It will save you a lot of time and money. So you've got your base, you've put some AOE Keynote goodness all around it, you've put whatever it is that you want to build in it, and then apply any desired icing you might have. So you may want to transition between two slides, you can do that in Keynote. You may want to have multiple clickable areas on your page, you can do that in Keynote as well. So in 3 minutes, I'm going to show you a really simple example of how I did this a couple of nights ago just to communicate a concept. Our support team, who's read a support ticket with Atlassian? Anyone raised the support ticket? Okay, some of you. If you log into our support portal, the support team have created this feature where there's a tweet button on the top right. And if you have a good experience with Atlassian support, you can tweet it. If you had a bad experience with Atlassian support, you can tweet it. And we have a team that monitors the Twitter feed and tries to help you out and make it a bit better. So what if we were communicating this concept to someone who hadn't seen it before and it was just an idea? So step one, what did I say? It was make your base. So this is the screenshot that we're going to have the button in. So I'm going to literally take a screen of the view issue screen, copy it, go to my Keynote file, and paste it. Step one is done. I've got the screen that I want to modify, that I want to communicate my concept to, done. Step two, the AOE Keynote file. We're going to mix and match some things here. So what we'll have is we'll have a button. So we'll scroll down. I'll grab a button that's already done here, copy it, back to my Keynote file, and I'll paste it. And I'll move it around to the position that I want. Really easy. It looks like an Atlassian user interface element. It's styled like it. I can click, rename it. I can resize it. So I'm going to put a little icon on the left so it's got a bit more of a visual treatment here. Resize it, right align it, whatever it is. So really easy to prototype what you've got today. No code at all yet. In fact, I'm going to mix and match some things from external resources. So we'll get a Twitter image, anything else externally, chuck it into your Keynote. So it adds a little bit of, looks a bit sexy, because a Twitter button on a Jira issue is sexy, apparently. So there you go there. Button's done. All right, what happens when you click the button? Let's get a dialogue. So I'm going to duplicate this slide and start to animate a few things. So I'll go through the AOE Keynote here. I'm not going to use modal dialogues because they're too dominating. Let's use inline dialogues because I kind of want them to keep focused on the particular area. I'm just going to copy that whole template that I've got in the Keynote, place it about there, move the little triangle twixy so it lines up nicely, and rename it. Look how easy this is. So I haven't had to write any JavaScript, any CSS. Remove some of the things that I'm not going to use. Okay, we'll use this text area. This will be the main text area where you'll write your tweet. Resize the dialogue. Pretty easy. Put some placeholder text. And we have something pretty good, can communicate the idea really easily. I think we're about 100 seconds about now. And so now I'll create a new slide, and let's fake it as if someone's typing in it just to communicate the concept to people. So I'm going to select that placeholder text, make it black. Hurry up, Sherif, we've got 3 minutes. And pretend someone's typing here. Come on. And what we're going to do now, kind of completed our main screens, is do the icing. So let's transition this text as if someone's typing. So it looks like someone's typing, so when we communicate to people, it's kind of obvious. In Keynote, you can select a typewriter effect. That easy. Done? Let's go back to our previous slide, and let's make that Twitter button clickable. So you can move your mouse around and click it in your Keynote. So I'll select that. And with Keynote, you can link to other slides, HTML files, other Keynote slides. In this case, let's just leave it to make it go to the next slide. All right, I think our concept's done. Hit play. Here's our support portal. Customer wants to give some feedback. Hover over the button. You see that handle, looks like a link. Click on it, and now customer's going to type in the feedback experience they had and hit save. Simple. 3 minutes. 3 minutes, 0 lines of code. I really believe this is going to save you time and money. So if you're building something internally, before you even write code, just fake it out for the customer. If you're building something externally, save your engineers. They've probably got more important things to work on rather than build something that you're probably going to change in a few minutes' time. So save some time. Where can you get this? It's on my Bitbucket site, bitbucket.org/Sherif. Download the Keynote file. It's not 100% complete. What I do is every time I have a new prototype, I add that. If I need a new UI element from Aui, I add that in there. So it's on Bitbucket, so you guys can help contribute to this and make it better for everyone. So you want to download it, fork it. If you add a new dialogue or add something that's easier or a template that make it easier for people, do that and submit a pull request so we can all share and benefit from it as well. My point, it's okay to fake it. It's not cheating. It's okay to fake it. And use the right tool. So you may not always want to use that Keynote prototyping tool. For example, that's terrible to use if you just want to communicate a concept because you may get a whole bunch of feedback that you don't care about. Why is that button, too much on the right? Why is that icon big? If you don't want that kind of feedback or whatever, maybe consider not using that tool and use a low fidelity tool as well. So think about, you got your tool set, what's the right thing to communicate the concept for the right tool. In case you forgot, my 5 tips before we started, build, measure, learn. Importance of learning and importance of unsolicited feedback. It goes a long way to making your product a whole lot better. First tip was all about reducing friction, questioning every field on that form for you. We went through a few examples there. My second tip, making the experience more fun and engaging. We had a whole bunch of game mechanics you want to incorporate, especially if you're a commercial plugin vendor, incentivize people. My third tip was about getting personal, connecting with the customer, really knowing exactly what they want. Spend a few moments writing a feedback strategy. And lastly, fake it if you need to fake it. Get feedback before you write any lines of code. Thanks, guys.